Have you ever stopped to think about the power that adversity has to shape our lives? Often, the most difficult moments are those that lead us to grow, to change, and, most importantly, to find a deeper purpose. This is the central theme of Stoicism and, in particular, of the teachings of Epictetus, one of the greatest philosophers of antiquity. Epictetus, who was born a slave and lived in conditions that many would consider unbearable, developed a practical philosophy that transcends time. He teaches us that it is not external circumstances that determine our well-being, but how we choose to deal with them. In a world full of uncertainty, anxiety, and challenges, how can we find purpose in the midst of adversity? In this video, we'll explore how Epictetus' ideas can help us see difficulties from a new perspective. We'll see how adversity can be an ally, a tool to transform us, rather than an enemy to be avoided. More than that, we'll understand how these ideas can be applied to our daily lives, helping us face modern issues like mental health, relationships, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. Get ready for a journey that goes beyond theoretical philosophy and delves into practices that can change the way you see life's challenges. If you're seeking greater clarity, resilience, and purpose, Epictetus' teachings are a compass that can guide you. And speaking of purpose, who better to start this conversation than Epictetus himself? Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Epictetus was born around 50 AD in the city of Hierapolis, in present-day Turkey. His life began in a very different way from what we usually associate with great philosophers. He was born a slave, under the rule of a harsh master in Rome. He lived a life marked by deprivation and adversity. However, rather than succumbing to his hardships, Epictetus found in adversity a solid foundation on which to build his philosophy. Even under such unfavorable conditions, Epictetus was allowed to study philosophy. He became a student of Musonius Rufus, a renowned Stoic philosopher. Over time, the combination of his natural intelligence and his tireless pursuit of wisdom transformed Epictetus into a remarkable figure. After gaining his freedom, he dedicated his life to teaching, opening a school of philosophy in Greece, where his ideas began to influence a generation of thinkers. Epictetus never wrote down his teachings, but his disciple Arian recorded his lectures in what we know today as the Discourses and the Handbook. These texts offer powerful lessons on how to deal with adversity, find purpose, and live virtuously, even in a world full of uncertainty. What makes Epictetus such a fascinating figure is that he lived what he preached. He knew suffering firsthand, but he chose not to become a victim of his circumstances. Instead, he found freedom within himself, teaching that true freedom lies not in the absence of external constraints, but in the control of our internal responses. Now that we know a little more about Epictetus' story, it's time to delve deeper into one of the central ideas of Stoicism, the role of adversity in shaping character and the search for purpose. At the heart of Stoicism, we find a profound and transformative insight. Adversity is not an enemy, but a teacher. For Epictetus and the Stoics, life's difficulties are not obstacles in the way, but the path itself. This philosophy invites us to view challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, rather than mere sources of suffering. Epictetus said that life is like a competition or a training camp. Just as an athlete becomes stronger when facing resistance and overcoming limits, we also become stronger when dealing with difficulties. It is in adversity that our character is shaped and that we discover what we are truly made of. But why do Stoics value adversity so much? The answer lies in the idea that it offers us the opportunity to practice the fundamental virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When we face difficulties, we are forced to reflect, make informed decisions, and act based on deeply held values. This constant practice of virtues is what brings us closer to a full and meaningful life. Think about situations in which you have faced unexpected challenges, perhaps a health problem, a conflict in a relationship, or financial hardship. In each of these experiences, there was an implicit invitation to grow, learn, and adapt. This is exactly what Epictetus teaches us. Adversity not only tests us, it also changes us. Now that we understand the fundamental role of adversity in Stoicism, we need tools to deal with these challenges in practical ways. One of Epictetus' most powerful and practical principles is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. He believed that the key to a peaceful life is understanding and accepting this difference. It sounds simple, but when applied to everyday life, this concept can transform the way we face adversity. Epictetus argued that our negative emotions often come from trying to control things that are beyond our control. For example, you can't control what people think of you, the weather, or the unexpected events that happen around you. However, you can control how you react to these situations, your attitudes, and your choices. He summarizes this idea at the beginning of the manual. Some things are within our control, and some are not. Within our control are our opinions, choices, desires, and aversions. Outside our control are things like wealth, health, reputation, and even death. Understanding this distinction brings a sense of freedom. When we stop worrying about what we cannot change and focus on what we can, we gain clarity and reduce suffering. This does not mean that we should be passive in the face of external difficulties, but rather that we should direct our energy toward what really makes a difference, our actions and attitudes. Let's imagine a common adversity. You're waiting for an important answer, but the decision is in someone else's hands. You can spend days anxiously thinking about the outcome, or you can focus on what's in your hands, like preparing yourself to deal with whatever answer you receive. This mindset is like a shield against unnecessary stress. As you watch the video, for Epictetus, accepting reality is the first step to transforming it. This acceptance is not resignation or passivity, but an active stance of recognizing what is as a starting point for what can be. When we resist reality, we waste emotional and mental energy on something we cannot change. But when we accept it, we open up space to act consciously and in line with our values. Epictetus used to teach that instead of lamenting our circumstances, we should ask ourselves, how can I use this? This simple question changes our perspective on difficulties. For example, instead of asking why something happened to you, ask yourself what you can learn or how you can grow from the experience. A powerful example of this idea is Epictetus' analogy of clay and the potter. Life, he says, is like a potter molding clay. Sometimes the clay is subjected to pressure and heat, but this is precisely what shapes the final piece. Similarly, our adversities are what shape us and allow us to develop our virtues and resilience. Continue to reflect on situations in your life where you can apply this principle. This active acceptance is especially helpful in times of uncertainty. Imagine a difficult scenario, such as losing your job. Instead of wasting energy mourning the loss, accepting the fact gives you space to focus on what's within your control. Pursuing new opportunities, learning new skills, or rethinking your career. This process of acceptance does not mean ignoring pain or sadness. Rather, it means acknowledging them but not allowing them to paralyze your ability to act. With this mindset, we can transform even the greatest challenges into catalysts for growth and purpose. Epictetus reminds us of a universal but often ignored truth. Pain and suffering can be great teachers. Although these moments are unwelcome, they offer the opportunity to discover strengths we may never have known we had. For him, suffering is a call to introspection and a chance to find purpose in the midst of chaos. One of Epictetus' most profound lessons is that pain is neither good nor bad in itself. It is neutral. What gives it meaning is how we choose to interpret it and what we do with it. He said, "It is not the things that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them." When we face adversity, we have the opportunity to reevaluate our priorities and values. Often, it is in pain that we identify what really matters. For example, a difficult time in a relationship can teach us about the importance of empathy and communication. An illness can make us value our health and the time we have with our loved ones more. Pain, according to Epictetus, also reminds us of our capacity for resilience. Each time we face and overcome a challenge, we strengthen our character and learn to trust our own inner strength more. It is in this process that we find purpose, in the choice to grow and become better, despite the circumstances. A modern example can be found in people who turn personal tragedies into greater causes, such as founding nonprofits, writing books, or simply helping others who face the same challenges. They transform pain into a transformative force, aligned with a greater purpose. Adversity is not just a challenge. It is also an invitation to practice the virtues that define our character. In Stoicism, 4 fundamental virtues guide our actions and help us navigate life's most difficult moments: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. For Epictetus, these virtues are not just abstract concepts, but practical tools for dealing with any situation. Wisdom is the ability to discern what is right and true. When faced with adversity, wisdom helps us reflect before reacting impulsively. For example, when faced with criticism or a personal attack, wisdom reminds us to calmly analyze the situation, assessing whether there is something constructive to learn or whether it is simply something beyond our control. Courage is the drive to face what is difficult without running away. For Epictetus, courage does not mean the absence of fear, but rather acting in spite of it. In challenging times, such as the loss of a job or a worrying medical diagnosis, courage gives us the strength to move forward and seek solutions, even when the future seems uncertain. Justice reminds us to act with integrity, not only for our own good, but also for the good of others. Even in situations of adversity, justice encourages us to think about how our actions affect others. For example, in a family conflict, it invites us to seek balance, rather than acting selfishly or resentfully. Temperance is a virtue of moderation, of avoiding excesses and maintaining balance. In times of crisis, it is easy to give into extremes, whether it be despair or anger. Temperance helps us to maintain serenity, even when everything seems to be out of control. These virtues act as a compass in times of adversity, keeping us focused on who we want to be, regardless of what is happening around us. Epictetus reminds us that by practicing these virtues, we become not only more resilient, but also more capable of finding purpose in any situation. Epictetus often compared life to a training camp or an arena. To him, every adversity we face is an opportunity to test and strengthen our character. He believed that hardships not only reveal who we are, but also help us become who we are meant to be. This view is encapsulated in one of his most famous reflections. Just as fire tests gold, difficulties test a person's virtues. For Epictetus, adversity is a kind of spiritual training. Just as an athlete needs endurance and effort to prepare for a competition, we too need to face life's challenges to develop our inner strength. Each difficulty we overcome prepares us to face the next with greater wisdom and resilience. Consider everyday situations: a disagreement with a coworker, a financial setback, or even unfair criticism. Instead of reacting impulsively, these situations offer us the opportunity to practice patience, self-control, and reflection. This process transforms adversity into a space for learning and growth. However, Epictetus also reminds us that this training requires conscious effort. It is not enough to simply face difficulties. We must use them as a mirror to evaluate our actions and continually improve. For example, a person who repeatedly faces failures can choose to learn from their mistakes by adjusting their strategies, or they can blame others and perpetuate a cycle of dissatisfaction. This mindset is liberating because it changes our relationship with problems. Instead of fearing or avoiding them, we begin to see them as stepping stones that bring us closer to a more meaningful life. Epictetus teaches us that to find purpose, we often need to look beyond our own needs and desires. The adversities we face can lead us to realize that life is richer and more meaningful when connected to something bigger than our ego. This something bigger could be a cause, a community, or even a set of principles that guide our actions. The philosopher believed that true freedom and purpose arise when we live in accordance with our rational and social nature. As human beings, we are designed to collaborate, help each other, and contribute to the common good. When we face hardship, there is an implicit opportunity to reevaluate our place in the world and seek ways to use our experiences to positively impact the lives of others. For example, someone who has overcome the loss of a loved one may find purpose in providing emotional support to others facing similar situations. An entrepreneur who has failed in a business may use his or her experience to mentor new entrepreneurs, preventing them from making the same mistakes. These actions not only give us a sense of meaning, but also connect us to something more lasting than our current circumstances. Epictetus also challenges us to ask, how can I serve the world based on what I have learned from my adversities? This question invites us to transform our personal experiences into something universal, into a legacy that goes beyond ourselves. This perspective helps redefine our relationship with problems. They stop being just personal obstacles and become bridges to contribute to something bigger. Epictetus was not just a theoretical philosopher. He lived what he taught. His life, marked by adversity from the beginning, is a powerful example of how to find purpose in the midst of hardship. Let's explore some anecdotes that illustrate how he applied his ideas in practice. From slave to philosopher, Epictetus was born into slavery in a society where this condition was synonymous with suffering and dehumanization. During his youth, he suffered physical abuse, and one often told story is that his master broke his leg during a punishment. Despite the pain, Epictetus is said to have calmly responded, "If you continue, it will break." When his leg broke, he accepted it rather than despairing. This demonstrates his ability to focus on what was within his control, his response to the situation, and to ignore what was not, such as his master's cruelty. This experience shaped his understanding that true freedom is not physical, but mental. Even as a slave, Epictetus believed that no one could control his thoughts and actions, and this conviction became the basis of his philosophy. His teaching and practice of simplicity. After gaining his freedom, Epictetus opened a school of philosophy in Greece. He lived an extremely simple life, with few possessions, as he believed that too much material possessions created unnecessary distractions and worries. He taught that happiness does not come from possessions or status, but from living in harmony with nature and our virtues. An example of resilience and purpose. Even when faced with adversity in his own life, Epictetus did not keep his lessons to himself. He dedicated his life to teaching others how to live better. His school was attended by people of all backgrounds, from wealthy Romans to soldiers to peasants. This shows how he turned his hardships into a greater mission, to empower others to find purpose and strength, regardless of their circumstances. These stories show us that Epictetus not only talked about purpose and adversity, but lived by his principles. Epictetus believed that finding a purpose is essential to achieving inner peace. When we live according to a higher purpose, aligned with our values and virtues, we become less vulnerable to external turbulence. The chaos of the world no longer shakes us deeply because we know that we are on the right path, guided by something more meaningful. For Epictetus, anxiety, frustration, and emotional suffering often arise when we are disconnected from a clear purpose. He taught that by focusing on a goal that transcends our momentary concerns, we gain clarity and serenity. It is as if purpose acts as an anchor, keeping us steady even in the midst of emotional storms. A prime example is the Stoic practice of questioning our desires and goals. Epictetus suggested that we often suffer because we pursue things that are beyond our control, such as wealth, fame, or the approval of others. When our purpose is guided by these external goals, we are vulnerable to the vagaries of the world. However, when we choose to live according to virtues such as justice, courage, and wisdom, we find a purpose that is always within our reach and cannot be taken away by external forces. Inner peace also comes from accepting that life is impermanent and unpredictable. When we align our purpose with this reality, we learn to flow with events rather than fight against them. For example, Someone who is grieving the loss of a loved one may find comfort in dedicating time to honoring that person's memory and helping others in similar situations. This type of purpose transforms grief into a constructive force, bringing calm and meaning to the experience. Epictetus didn't want his ideas to be merely contemplated. He argued that philosophy should be lived. To this end, he left behind a series of practices and exercises that can help us face adversity, find purpose, and cultivate inner peace. Let's explore some of these exercises and how to apply them in our daily lives. 1. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. The practice of negative visualization involves imagining the worst-case scenarios that could happen in your life. Although it may feel uncomfortable, this exercise prepares us mentally and emotionally to face unexpected challenges. For example, when contemplating the possibility of losing a job or facing an illness, you might ask yourself, how would I cope with this? What internal resources could I draw on? This not only strengthens your resilience, but also increases your appreciation for the present moment. 2. Daily reflection and the Stoic diary. Epictetus suggested that at the end of each day we reflect on our actions, asking, what did I do today that was aligned with my virtues? What could I have done differently? This exercise helps us stay focused on our values and identify areas for improvement. Stoic journaling allows you to track your progress, recognize patterns, and commit to practical changes. 3. Differentiate between what depends on you and what doesn't. This exercise is the essence of Stoicism. Whenever you are faced with adversity, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, focus on taking action. If it's no, practice acceptance. This simple practice reduces anxiety and directs your energy toward what truly matters. 4. Practice gratitude. Although Epictetus lived in difficult circumstances, he encourages us to find gratitude even in the darkest moments. Make a daily list of the things you are grateful for. This helps shift your focus from scarcity to abundance and cultivate a more positive outlook when facing challenges. 5. Conscious acts of virtue. Every day, take one intentional action that aligns with the Stoic virtues. For example, demonstrate courage when facing a difficult conversation, or practice temperance by avoiding an impulse to consume. These small actions reinforce your sense of purpose and your ability to deal with adversity. By incorporating these practices into your routine, you will be building a solid foundation to face challenges with resilience and clarity. Epictetus warns us about a common trap: the relentless pursuit of pleasure as a substitute for true purpose. In modern society, this translates into chasing comfort, immediate entertainment, or momentary distractions as ways to avoid dealing with life's deeper challenges. He sees this pursuit as empty and often causes more suffering than relief. Pleasure is temporary, while purpose is lasting. For example, imagine that you are dealing with a stressful situation, seeking immediate relief, such as getting lost in social media, overeating, or avoiding responsibilities, may provide momentary comfort. However, these actions do not solve the underlying problem. On the other hand, approaching the challenge with a mindset aligned with a purpose, such as learning from the experience or contributing to something bigger, creates a meaningful and lasting impact. Epictetus said that true happiness comes from living in accordance with our virtues, not from satisfying fleeting desires. He taught that we should ask ourselves, does this choice move me closer to or further from the kind of person I want to be? Immediate pleasures often take us away from our larger goals, while purposeful actions strengthen us and lead us to a more meaningful life. This distinction is essential in times of adversity. We often seek escapism, a form of pleasure, as a way to cope with pain. However, Epictetus encourages us to face suffering head-on and ask, how can this serve a greater purpose? For example, overcoming a difficult time in a relationship can lead to deeper connection, while running away from the problem only prolongs the pain. Epictetus' teachings, despite being formulated nearly 2,000 years ago, remain incredibly relevant today. The modern world presents unique challenges, such as the pressures of social media, the fast pace of life, and the constant search for external validation. But Stoic principles offer practical tools for dealing with these challenges in meaningful ways. 1. Anxiety and information overload. We live in an age of information overload, where anxiety has become an epidemic. Negative news, conflicting opinions, and constant comparisons are just a click away. Epictetus teaches us to differentiate between what is within our control, like our reaction to that information, and what is not, like global events or other people's opinions. This practice helps us focus on what really matters and avoid drowning in unnecessary worry. 2. Social media and external validation. On social media, the pursuit of likes and followers often disconnects us from our inner values. Epictetus would remind us that true freedom lies not in pleasing others, but in living in accordance with our virtues. Before posting something or comparing yourself to others, ask yourself, is this aligned with the kind of person I want to be? This simple reflection can transform our relationship with these platforms. 3. Relationships and conflicts. Interpersonal conflicts are a reality of modern life, whether at work, in the family, or among friends. Epictetus teaches us to approach these situations with wisdom and temperance. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can reflect. What depends on me in this situation? How can I act fairly and respectfully, even if the other person does not do the same? This approach not only reduces conflict, but also strengthens our relationships. 4. Work and purpose. Many people today feel a disconnect between their work and a sense of purpose. Epictetus would argue that even in seemingly insignificant tasks, we can find meaning by doing them with excellence and integrity. He would also encourage us to look for ways to align our work with our values, even if it takes courage to make changes. 5. The pressure for material success. Modern society often measures success in terms of wealth, status, or possessions. Epictetus, however, reminds us that true wealth lies in living simply and at peace with our choices. He challenges us to ask ourselves, am I pursuing this because it's important to me, or because I feel I have to please others? This reflection can free us from a relentless pursuit of external validation. We've reached the end of this journey on Epictetus and the importance of finding purpose in adversity. Throughout this video, we explore how the Stoic philosophers' teachings help us turn challenges into opportunities and build a life guided by values and purpose. Epictetus' central message is clear. Adversity is not an enemy, but a powerful ally in the process of personal growth. We cannot avoid life's ups and downs, but we can choose how we respond to them. It is this choice that defines who we are and who we become. Looking back on what we've learned, the first big lesson is that not everything is under our control, and that's okay. When we focus on what's within our control, such as our actions, thoughts, and attitudes, we gain clarity and serenity. Furthermore, by practicing virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we transform even the most difficult moments into opportunities to connect with a greater purpose. Epictetus reminds us that accepting reality is not an act of weakness, but of strength. This acceptance allows us to act consciously and in alignment with our values, rather than getting lost in regrets or unproductive resistance. And most importantly, he teaches us that pain and suffering, no matter how difficult they may be, can be the catalyst for our growth and transformation. Now, the invitation is for you. How can you start applying these teachings in your life? Think about the adversities you are facing at this moment and reflect on how they can become opportunities to discover or reinforce your purpose. Remember that every step, no matter how small, is a movement toward a fuller and more meaningful life. As Epictetus said, do not aspire to have events happen as you wish, but desire that they happen as they should happen, and your life will be peaceful. With this reflection, we conclude our conversation about Epictetus. May his words and practices guide you on your journey to find purpose in adversity. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our content. See ya!